All right.
Wait a second.
Hi, guys. Hello. This is Lago. He's my traveling dog. All right. I know, right? He is a Chihuahua and a Dachshund. I adopted him. Actually, it's funny. I did it. I was doing an event in the Hamptons like 7 years ago with Alexa Hampton, and she and I were hosting something for Architectural Digest does this big antique show every year out east, and I didn't know that they combined the party with ARF, which is the animal rescue out in the east end of Long Island in the Hamptons, and so they had all these like dogs running around. And so when we were, saying hello to people and doing whatever, I kept seeing him run. He was 7 years ago. He was probably, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 months old. And he had just come in from South Carolina. So, and his name was Clyburn. And I tried everything. I tried Burn. I was like, I can't. I was like, and everyone said, oh, you should name him Hampton because you're adopting him in the Hamptons. And I said, the Hamptons does not need another gay with a dog named Hampton. So I said he's going to mostly be up at the lake anyway. So I called him Lago. So that's how I got his name.
So as we get started, I want to welcome everyone to, as you know, an interview with Thom featuring Thom Filicia. Some of you may know him from his time on the OG Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, where a lot of people know. But a lot of the people in the building here, certainly because it's designers, know your lines that are represented in the building with Universal Furniture, Wendover Art, which are both at the CAI showroom, and then his wallpaper fabric at the Kravitz showroom in the building here. And then our focus today is on his relationship with our business partner, Feizy Rug. My name is Joel Baird. I'm with the Ghiordes Knot showroom across the hall. We've been here in the Design Center for over 40 years, working with trade partners. I'd like to welcome Denise from Feizy too. Where are you, Denise?
Where is she?
There
she is.
So yeah, Denise is here from Feizy Rug. So if you have questions after, obviously she's available. And then Sarah is here from Feizy also.
There's Sarah?
Yeah, Sarah's right there. And then I'll tell you just a little bit about logistics because we're going to make you get up and move a little bit, tell you what the agenda is for the day. We're going to have a question and answer format with Thom until approximately 4:30. And then we're all going to walk across the hall from 4:30 till around 5.
I like this plan, by the way. It's got a lot of,
Yeah.
There's a bar over there. I was already in when he said that. I was like, this sounds great. And then that's a half hour,
so
right?
4:30 to 5 is a meet and greet over there. So everyone's going to have their chance. We have a wall set up for photo opportunities there. So it's very informal. And then at 5 o'clock, come back over here. We have a cocktail party. We have Ben Sharkey and his orchestra. We have Miss Mixology with signature drinks. So
I'm loving
from 5
all
to
this.
7, we'll have a cocktail party over here. And then you'll see, the others roll in then, I'm assuming, too.
You guys know how to do it. Wow,
so
that's nice. I like it.
So without further ado, I'd like to give a warm Detroit, Michigan welcome to Thom. And then we'll get started.
Thank you. Lago, what was that?
So obviously,
that was the first. I've never seen this. So yeah, he's very well. We've actually been walking around. We were in Detroit walking around and checking out the city. I hadn't been in about pre-COVID really. Right. So and so much was happening the last time I was here, and I know like everywhere else, everything kind of shut down and slowed down. And so I was really excited to see what was going on. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Come here. Okay, goofball. Jeez. He's like, I'm going to ruin your life.
So again, we thought it would be good to have a question and answer format because I know everyone's obviously interested in how someone gets to be where you're at. But we're going to start with just real simple things just to get the ball rolling as far as what's your favorite food?
Oh, what are you serving? No, I would say, I think, my favorite food is actually like, it's almost like, I would say, like a clam bake. Okay. Like clam bakes to me are like, whatever, like, the lobster, clam, raw bar. I just love that whole sort of American sort of, like whether people do it at the lake or they do it at the ocean or wherever, but that sort of American sort of summer clam bake. I think it's because when I was a little kid, we had a boat on a lake in upstate New York, and every summer, my birthday's in May, and they would have this big clam bake every year at the place where we kept our boat, and they would do it by the pool, and it's like everyone's boats were kind of like in the water or just going in the water, so they'd have these big like places where they kept the boats, and they would have a huge party, and they would burn an old boat every year. And it was a big clam bake with like lobster and corn, whatever they did. And for some reason, I thought it was for my birthday because I wasn't really smart. I was like, oh my God. So and then as I got older, I just always did a clam bake on my birthday. So it was like, that became the tradition. So I think that's why I like it, but I just associate that food with like, it's very relaxed. It's super easy. It's not something that you eat every day. You have to know the people that you're eating it pretty well with. You can't sort of not a first date kind of thing. So you're kind of committed to the group because it's kind of messy. I don't know. It's just, it's very American and kind of like, I don't know. It feels like a celebration, I guess.
So another just general question, just to get things rolling. What's your favorite city to visit?
Oh, well, it's actually funny you say that, but no, I will tell you. Okay, so I would say like, I mean, going, let's say international or Europe, I would say I love Rome is one of my favorite cities. I feel like as many times as I've been there, every time I go there, I find something that I haven't seen before. And it's just, there's something about the architecture and the language and the food. And it's really, I love that part of the world, especially. But so I think Rome is amazing. I live in New York City. So, visiting New York City is, I'm spending a lot of time getting out of New York City. But so I really have to say I'm not saying this because this is Michigan. I think the two cities that I'm most fascinated by and that I enjoy seeing, and the reason I was really excited to go and walk around Detroit today, is that Nashville and Detroit to me are the two cities in the US that I think are the most interesting in terms of what's happening and how much is happening. And just I actually had I was at a Jets game and I sat next to, about 10 years ago, maybe, I sat next to the then mayor of Detroit and his wife, and I was having a conversation with him, and he was telling me, you have to come to Detroit, and he was telling me about everything that was going on and I had so many questions about the city, and I just thought it was so fascinating how the city kind of had to shut down to kind of rebuild itself. And I was just so amazed by that. And I told literally everyone I know, you have to go to, so I did visit and I loved it. And it was amazing because I could see what was happening. And it kind of reminds me of what's happened in New York City with Brooklyn, because about 20 years ago, you could not get people from Manhattan to go to Brooklyn. They were like, what? No way. It's like, and people that grew up in Brooklyn were like, they never wanted to really go back. Yeah. I mean, but it's now like an incredible place, and it went through that whole process that I think you're probably, I don't know exactly where in the stage is, but you're in sort of like the first quarter of that as well. And I think obviously slowed down by sort of what happened in the whole world. So, but I do think it's amazing. In terms of cities in the US, I do travel a lot, and I go to a lot of cities, and I think I have my favorites, but it's always fun to go to cities that are sort of evolving and changing, and there's something new happening. And the art scene and sort of the restaurant scene here is incredible. And just the renovation of probably some of the most beautiful buildings that far surpass the architecture of almost any other city. So to me, that is why I think it's such a incredible place to visit, because you're to see Beaux-Arts buildings, being sort of revitalized is pretty cool. So anyways, but those are my two kind of favorite American cities at the moment that are fun to visit.
So now from a design perspective, because that's our audience here. It seems you've been born to do what you're doing. When did you know you wanted to be a designer? What's the journey
well, it's funny, when I was very young, when I was a little kid in like 5th grade, um, I, my really what it was, my teacher, Mrs. Chamberlain, went away for a week, and I started drawing on my desk, and I was drawing. I started with a house, and of course, told the substitute teacher, like, "Yeah, we're totally allowed to do this," and so I was drawing on my desk, and every day I just kept adding and adding and adding, and of course I don't think I did anything I was supposed to be doing, so it's in trouble for that. And then she was back like, the next week, Monday or whatever, and I was in trouble. And I was, she couldn't believe that I was like the whole desk was covered with this house. It just kept growing and growing. But she said she wanted the principal wanted to come up and talk to me. And when he came up, Mr. Byer, he wanted to take a picture of me with him next to it. So I kind of knew that there was something, even though I was in trouble and I was going to have to write, I'm not going to draw my desk ever, like 1,000,000 times on the blackboard and stay late and all that. I was like, I kind of felt like there was, that kind of landed on something. And at that same time, I went and spent an afternoon with one of my neighbors who is an architect in his office, because we did this thing where you get to pick a career and then you go to spend the day or whatever. So I did that, and that was really cool. So in 6th grade, I started, a girl in my class, Julie Banks, who I'm still friends with, and I started drawing houses, and then they would go up on if they were good, they would go up on the principal's bulletin board with like spelling bees and all this stuff that I was terrible at. So I was never up there. So it was like a big deal for me. So now I was up on the principal's bulletin board. So that was cool. And that's when I realized, I was like, I think I want to be an architect. And that was kind of my journey at that age. And my mom kind of, was guiding me, like, design was my thing. And I was taking advanced art classes. So I really knew at a young age that I wanted to do that. And then when I went and was looking to go to college, I started looking at programs, and I went and I spoke to all the architecture students. I was like, hey guys, I'm like, what, like, this is so cool, whatever, like, what do you guys do on the weekends? They're like, we don't have weekends. We never leave our studios. We're like working 24/7. And I was like, okay, I checked that off the list. And then, and I went to the interior design program and industrial design. And I just kind of like decided that interior design was like, of all of the things, even if architects were throwing keg parties every 20 minutes, I still was like, that was just not, I felt like I found my niche within all of those areas. And what was great about it is I was able to take some classes in architecture, some classes in industrial design, surface pattern design. At the time, before computers, that was like actually a thing that people studied. Yeah. Now you just draw something and put it and press a button and it puts it on repeat. But so that's how I found interior design. And I think it actually oddly just sort of found me when I was a young kid. I was like, I would, go into people's houses that, just bought a house and were so excited. And I was like, if you knock that wall down, and they're like, wait, what? They're like, who's this little 7-year-old who's telling me to knock walls down in the house that we fell in love with the way it is?
Right. So you've accomplished so much in the world of design, but you're perhaps best known for demystifying design and taking away its elitism in design, which of course you did very publicly through the Queer Eye show. Yeah. Talk about your design philosophy and how accessibility plays into it.
Yeah. Well, so interestingly, after I went to school for interior design, and I interned between my junior and my senior year for a company in New York City, Parrish Hadley, which is sort of a very sort of old school kind of like, venerable kind of like firm that did all these like major American families' homes. And it was cool. It was a great experience. I loved it. And I was there for the summer, which was an amazing opportunity. Then they hired me out of school, and I went back and worked there for another summer or another year. And then I worked for Robert Metzger for some time, and Alan Tanksley. I did like moonlighting for him. And then I worked for Jeffrey Bill Huber, and then I opened my own company. But so when I was going through that process, one of the things that I realized, I was like, it was at that time when design was starting to become a conversation, and there were these things happening in television, like people, like while you were out or whatever, the one where you leave and your neighbor decorates your house and they always get in a fight because they're like pissed that it doesn't, like, why'd you put grass on my wall? But and they're like, you love grass. They're like, but not my house. And I was like, but so that was like the beginning of television and design. And also it was like when I think Target was starting to become a thing. And all of a sudden it was like design was becoming something that a lot of people thought about and a lot of people cared about, whether it was fashion, food maybe was something that people were starting to think about, Home Depot renovations. They were all of these things were starting to become like commonplace. Whereas I think before that, it was like, you didn't really fix it until it just was a different approach, And I think that I was working in a world that was the 1% of the 1%, and I always felt like we lived in this rarefied bubble. And it was so bizarre to me to see like design happening in a public way or like in a retail way in this conversation. And then I was working in a business that was kind of stuck in this kind of weird bubble. So I was like, I kept saying it's our job as designers to make design more approachable. Like, and I always compare it to like when people go to an art gallery and the gallerists or the people that work at, the people that work at the gallery kind of ignore you or like aren't, they kind of, don't really, they kind of look at you funny if you have like a question like how much is that or who's the artist or is the artist alive or something. And they're like, so I said, that's very intimidating. And certainly even today with clients, it still is that way. Clients that have private airplanes and 12 houses walk into art galleries and are like immediately intimidated. So I said, it's the job of the art gallery, it's the job of the designer, it's the job of the chef, it's the job of the hotelier to make it approachable and make it interesting and make everyone feel welcome and excited about it. Because to me, that was the momentum. I was seeing that happening over here. And it was exciting to me at that age. I was like, I think I love the idea that design was starting to become a conversation kind of with everybody. And that you didn't have to buy a Mercedes to necessarily have to have a crumple zone or an airbag or 3-point seatbelts. Like everybody was doing it, and they were doing it at different price points and at different looks, but it was happening and people were interested in it and people were demanding more, which I thought was really cool. So when you would go into like a retail store or a Pottery Barn, or as all those kind of retail stores, started growing, they started really offering so much more than what was ever available at the retail level.
So your interiors are known for having a narrative thread, which presumably is the story of the people living in it. Can you explain the concept and how it relates to your aesthetic as far as, making it connect to the people without it looking like a kitschy kind of
Well,
theme?
I mean, I think that to me, the day of people designing, or I hope, and it's certainly what we promote, but the idea of designing interiors that sort of are aspirational about, having these rooms where you don't really use them or go in them or feel comfortable in them or entertain in them or allow your friends or family to even step into them because they're just to be seen. And it's just sort of, I think that was a thing that was more typical years ago. I think today people really design their homes to live in them and to use them and to enjoy them. And I think today we also have a lot of materials that allow us to do that more easily. And I think that to me, that is, that's really the authenticity of that. And I think that what I try to do is really tap into whether it's my client or my clients or the family or the brand that I'm working with, whether it's a hotel, whatever we're doing, is really kind of tell their story and make it feel authentic to who they are and really give them in a space that works for the way that they live, so that it not only looks beautiful, but it functions for them. And it's a place where they actually are enjoying their day to day. And I think that's the, whenever I go into someone's house and they're panicked about people walking on their floor, I'm like, you are not the wrong floor. You have the wrong floor. You either spent too much money or you chose the wrong material or something's wrong. You should not be able to be afraid to walk on your floor. And so I just think that is that's kind of what we try. That's what I don't strive for. And I guide my clients to basically create environments that they're excited to live in. And whether it's their family, their friends, their animals, their whatever, to have birthday parties. I'm like, those are the things that you're going to remember. At the end of the day, it's a great chair, but it's
And
a
during
chair.
COVID, that changed too. Everyone lived differently in their house.
Everyone started really expecting more from their interiors and their homes, and wanting them to really function and be comfortable and actually adapt to what the daily needs were and what was going on. And I think it was shocking that was what happened, because I thought in the beginning, I was like, oh my God,
industry
is going to shut down, and then it was not it was complete antithesis of that. So
it was the opposite in this building, we know.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone was redoing everything.
Yes, I know.
So
it's kind of funny. Yeah, I think it was funny. Art was a very big thing, because people were staring at empty walls going, oh my God, this is making me crazy.
Yeah. I know that some people here may be interested. Obviously, there's the whole design, aesthetic, style, but another component that you positioned and transitioned quite a bit into is the whole product.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of lifestyle products. Obviously, we talked at the beginning, furniture through Vanguard here in the building, art through Wendover Group, which is also here in the building, and then the fabric.
Feizy rugs. Yeah.
And then the fabrics and
Kravitz.
Kravitz and the wallpaper, and then the Feizy rugs. So can you tell us why you wanted to position into that? Was that something you looked to do, or something that just kind of naturally, organically grew into that?
Well, so when I was studying in college, industrial design was one of the programs that was offered I went to Syracuse University School of Design, and I loved it. It was fun, and I actually took a class in college, and it was we created this. So I was taking it. So I was industrial design. I ended up in this class that we were working with a juvenile product manufacturer, JPMA, a Manufacturers of America. And it was like my senior year, and I was working on my portfolio, and I was super stressed out, trying to get everything done. And I was like, this is the last thing I need, is to be doing this. And we were asked to design. We had to break up into groups, and then what they gave us the thing, we had to design window treatments for kids' bedrooms. So that was our thing. And if you didn't design it well, your group got sort of dissolved into another group that did well, right? So I was like, sat my group down, and I said, there was like 8 of us, and I said, look, guys, I really don't want to do this. I don't care. So like, let's just like whatever, just like knock something out that we don't care about, and just like, so we don't get in trouble for not really doing anything. But like, and everyone agreed. We're like seniors, like, let's not make this more complicated than it needs to be. So we came up with jungle blinds. So I said, I gave everybody an animal. I said, and I was the team leader or whatever. So I gave everyone an animal, like a giraffe or whatever. And everyone had to cut it out of the thing in a certain size. And I literally went to my fraternity house, and they were throwing out vertical blinds. And I just took one of the tracks, attached these things to the track, brought it in, hung it with the things that came in that nobody ever saw. We put them, and they were basically like animals on a track that went like, it wasn't very complicated. And I thought, people were you wouldn't believe what they were doing, like, and spending weeks and nights overnight. We did very little. So we get there, and we literally won. And what I didn't realize back in those days, when I was a student, when you're in theory, is that ours was the only one that was actually buildable. Like, it would actually cost like $1 to make it. All of the things that it needed to build it were already existed in the world, and they didn't have to make anything special to do it. And it was fun and cute, and you could pick out your animals. It was like not complicated.
Right.
But we thought it was like the laziest thing in the world. And all these other people that had like saws and drills, and they were working, and everybody was there like night and day for 4 weeks, and they were killing themselves. We literally, so it's funny. I was like, I really enjoyed the process, but it was like trying to get out of doing it. And we won. My whole team, we were like on the school newspaper, on the cover, we're like this. What? Like we literally had no idea that we were gonna. It was really because ours was. I think it was viable, but we didn't. That wasn't what we were thinking. We were just thinking like what was easy and get it done, and like let's get it. Like let's not make this complicated. But that's actually what made ours work. So, and it was in. That was kind of a big light bulb at that point, and I really enjoyed that, and I also really enjoyed doing custom pieces for clients. I really enjoyed that process and going to work with the mill workers or the furniture, makers and all of the different people that we work with. I really enjoyed that process and that conversation and learning about what they're doing and how they're going to support that. And just sort of the engineering of it was kind of cool. So I loved all of that. And I don't know. So I just always kind of leaned into that. And then when I was, in what we do, there were times where I was just like, I'm looking at a bedside table that's like, $12,000. I'm thinking, that seems like a lot. You know what I mean? So I'm like, that's a lot for that table. I just can't believe it's like I'm looking at it and and I'm thinking like, well, if you made a couple different choices here, this could be the same thing for like half the price, retail. So I just started thinking like there's really a space for sort of design product that is a little bit more thoughtfully. A lot of what we do, especially even like with our Feizy rugs, is like I looked at all of the qualities that I loved and I picked them all out from Feizy and who they work with and all of the different manufacturers. I also looked at the price points and the content. And so I chose rugs based on sort of the look and the quality as well as content. I wanted them to be, wool and cleanable and, things that I have dogs, my friends have kids, my brothers have kids. So it's like, I want them to be things that you can actually live with and walk on and not have to panic about, but also a price point that also makes it,
more accessible.
Well, it just makes it make sense. I mean, it's like, I get it. I have clients that will buy like an antique $75,000 rug, and I get why they, probably are like thinking. But I'm like at where they are in the world, right. $75,000 rug to them is probably like $1,000 rug to me. Right. But the thing is that I was like, I do think a lot about the products that we make and sort of how to make them so that people designers have the ability to buy them and mark them up, and it's not going to go bananas and it's not going to kill the budget. So that's one of the things because that's what we're looking for in our projects and the designers that work in my office.
I would agree. So everyone saw as you walk through, those were all his rugs that you're walking through. And again, the weave, there's lots of reasons why they work in a lot of projects.
Yeah. I mean,
the price points, again, the wool, all that.
And I love, I looked at things that were sort of refined, but not, that had really great texture and that had really great, that took the color beautifully and also naturally, where it wasn't, solid, colors. I like that sort of texture because it gives it a little bit, it's either much, when I designed the collection, I designed it initially so that it was a collection that was easy to work with, fabrics and textiles and existing pieces and mixing things, because that's what we're doing all of the time in our projects is that, we're taking existing pieces, mixing them with new pieces and sort of connecting all of those things. So I love color palettes that have that sort of, heathering to them and that natural kind of texture so that it's easy to bring in other fabrics and other, sort of a mix of things, both, vintage, new, antique, and it sort of pulls it all together. Right. So to me, that was very important.
And in the bags, if you picked them up or if you want to pick them up, there is Thom's collection is in there. There's a brochure in there. So you can see a lot of the ones that he has in the collection. So one other question, is there one element that you try to include in all your designs that says, this is me, I know this is me, I need to bring this because everyone expects this of me in this project?
I mean, I think what we bring to our interiors, and to sort of summarize it, I would say, I tend to I like it to have an element of fun and easiness and a relaxed kind of, I don't know, something that is unexpected and fun and a little quirky and makes it feel very personal and not expected, or you've seen it all the time and a little bit quirky. I mean, whether it's like a huge, bronze turtle that sits in I don't know, there's always some wacky things that just sort of people love and that they kind of don't know why they're there, but they're just kind of fun and quirky. But I love that in homes, that unexpected, element of fun that just brings it down to earth and makes it a little bit less taking itself so seriously. I mean, at the end of the day, I always say it's decorating, people.
Right.
It's supposed to be comfortable and fun and great to look at and enjoyable. And it's not, it's not supposed to intimidate anybody, or it's supposed to I always say that there's something for everybody, like you kind of go into the room and it's like, there's some like modern moments, there's some classic moments, there's some old, there's some new, there's like this really nice balance. And that way, I think it just sort of allows everybody to sort of feel connected and find something to, to connect with. And I think that so much about what we do is giving people that connection, to their space, to their home, to their interior, sometimes to sort of entertaining, living in their homes, having family dinners, making it so that you kind of want to be there and enjoy it. And I think hopefully the goal is that you're there creating all of these amazing memories, which is really what it's all about, at the end of the day. What we do is sort of the backdrop for really the movie is really your life, and so we're creating these beautiful backdrops that hopefully are authentic to the family and the architecture and the location and the region and all of those things, but also are inspiring and comfortable. And I always, the way that I describe it is I always say, like, your home, you should describe your home the same way you describe your best friend, because if it has all of those attributes, then that's the space that you should be living in. It should be fun, it should be inspiring, it should be comfortable, it should be interesting, dynamic, quirky, it should have a sense of humor, like it should, and I think if you look at it that way, it makes it a lot more fun making the choices,
So obviously you're very in tune with the industry, you're at High Point, you're developing products. For you personally, what excites you creatively right now? Anything new in the market? Anything that you're working on that you can't wait to show everyone?
So I'm we're working on an accessory line right now, which is really exciting, and I'm excited about that. We're actually going to see the outdoor collection for Cravat, which I'm very excited about. And we use outdoor so much, indoor and outdoor. That was something that we were really wanted to work on. But I would say, what is the what are we excited about? I would say, I don't know. I think, to me, I think what I'm excited about is, first of all, that we're all here and we're all able to be without masks, and we're all able to sort of, work again and play again and travel again and do all of the things that I think everyone really enjoys and brings a lot of inspiration to everyone individually and collectively and to the industry. So I think that's awesome. But, for me, it's really people. I think that's what inspires me creatively, because, wherever you go in the world, of course you want to see restaurants and museums and architecture and go to these beautiful, iconic, moments, whether, that's, and I think all of those things are inspiring. But at the end of the day, I find it's really the connection with people when you're traveling, hearing what they're doing, what they're excited about, what's happening in their world, and actually being genuinely interested and sort of listen and have that conversation. Because to me, that's where a lot of creativity comes from. And I also think that when I see things happening that's to me, like, that's the people, that's the people. Like when you walk around Detroit and you see everything that's happening, that's people making that happen.
Right.
And so those people, those ideas, those things, some of them are very successful. Some of them are, you know, getting better every day.
Right.
They're having challenges, but that to me is really inspiring for creative people, because whether it's restaurants or hotels or new homes or condos or outdoor spaces or whatever they are, it's really inspiring. And I think that, the people that are behind that happening, the people that go and connect with it when it does happen, and sort of become a part of that moving forward. I think, to me, that's the energy that I really find is the most interesting.
Right. Awesome. So obviously you talked a little bit about the partnership with Feizy.
Yeah.
Is there anything coming up? A lot of this, honestly, is new for us. People, these are our clients that are here all the time. A lot of these rugs are newer.
Got it.
So we have them all now in the showroom. They're in these smaller sizes, so you can take them out to your client. As you know, because everyone here probably knows, our showroom's set up that everything comes in every size. We're not a lot of one-of-a-kind type things.
Yeah.
So obviously that's a good vendor.
And the great thing about Feizy is that they do have, and the reason how I found Feizy was that years ago I would work with them. I've done a lot of TV shows, and years ago when I first started in television, a long time ago, and working with people that have resources that you can actually make happen in a quick turnaround for television was a big deal. And I was working with, and I knew who Feizy was, and we'd worked with them as a design firm, but I never realized how, because I didn't need it like tomorrow. I was like, oh, it's for a living room. The house is being renovated. I need it in 3 months. That seemed like normal time frame to me. But when I was doing television, it's like, I need this rug and I need it to be FedExed to us like right now. And it was like not easy to do. But Feizy, they basically, their stock is incredible. Their warehouse is incredible, both with new rugs, antique rugs, vintage rugs. It's just incredible. So that's really where I started to understand the breadth of what they were doing. And so I don't know, to me, that was like one of the things that really separates them from a lot of the other companies that we work with. Not only the product itself, but the fact that they actually stock it and believe in it, and get behind it, which is so cool. And I'm sure for you guys, it must be, that's
it's just easy, as everyone here knows,
Yeah.
You fall in love with the rug, and if it's not the right size, it comes in that size, and it's readily available.
I'm sure it's like this here, like it is with us, is that, everyone now is like, so we bought a house and we need it done next month. And you're like, wait, what? So everything now is like on hyper, how are we going to make this work? And then, of course, with all of the issues with shipping and everything, everyone has come up with all these ways to make things happen. And so you're working with a lot of people that you can make those things happen. So this was, Feizy is really amazing that way. But I forgot, where were we? That's what happens when I don't have a drink.
So I think probably one other question that could be interesting. Is there one thing that you would describe your style and your brand as far as when you look at something? Yeah. You kind of said part of it as far as kind of a natural.
I feel like, to me, American design is very comfortable and approachable. If there's something that's kind of what I think that the aesthetic that American design is built on is really sort of that concept, I believe. And I think that what we call ourselves, like our aesthetic, if we were to boil it down to like 2 words, we say American chic. And the idea that it's very approachable, it's definitely rooted in the American lifestyle and point of view, and it's stylish. It's something that we like it to be classic and stylish, modern enough that it would fit in an urban loft and classic enough that it would look great in a suburban or country house.
Right.
And it sort of cools down a Georgian and it warms up a loft. It's sort of kind of like how we describe our aesthetic. And it's very American in its point of view. And when I created the furniture line, I really was like, it's like he loves your shoes. Oh yes, that's so funny. So I created the collection, and it was called we kind of called it like Modern Americana or the New American. And the idea was that we don't really use any recognizable. There's no cabriole legs. There's nothing that is European reference.
Okay.
It's all, and if you look at the original sort of furniture that came over from Europe that's in the U.S. Oh my Lord, we're logo. Jesus, do that on this rug. Just kidding. So he goes, but the American furniture that came over, or the original furniture, was just pared down. It was like, it was an Chippendale, but it was like almost with no detail,
right.
Or it was Windsor, almost no detail.
Right.
So if you think about it, it was almost a modernization of the European form. So I took that as sort of our springboard for Modern Americana, which was really sort of cleaning it up, keeping it very straightforward. And I think that is the way that I think in classic interiors have become more clean and more pared down. And I also think that modern interiors have become much warmer and more layered. So we kind of fell into that space.
Right.
You kind of naturally.
I think he needs to go out. There's a door right there.
He just went out. Oh my God, if you took him out, he would have a heart attack. He'd be like, where am I going? I think that I would say we kind of call it, we were thinking about what we would call, our next book, if we do a book on just kind of our interiors. And we were thinking that American to me represents sort of casual and somewhat, informal and kind of livable and sort of friends and family focused. And chic to me is like anything that's kind of stylish and interesting or cool, or that's sort of timely and timeless. So we kind of came up with American chic as sort of kind of what we do. I mean, it sounds a bit self-serving, but I guess that's what it's supposed to, yeah, it shouldn't be like American terrible. Kind of good. But yeah, but that was sort of the idea, that it was stylish and also very like kind of comfortable and approachable and livable. And how do you say that? So that's what we were thinking. We haven't landed on anything yet. Everyone, yeah, we've got.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we're working on it. That's the running name though right now.
Okay. So those are the questions that we had.
Yeah.
So at this point, we can thank Thom for coming and talking to us.
Any questions do you want to do any?
I didn't know if you wanted.
If there's any questions that you guys have that.
I was afraid to ask. So. Keep it clean. Oh no, yeah, Joanne. Yeah.
Don't keep it clean.
Oh no.
Why?
Yeah, Joanne.
That like makes you want to vomit. Like, what do you hate that's ugly that you like wish to go away?
Okay. All right. Well, I definitely think that we're seeing a lot of, and it's not that it makes me vomit at all, but we're seeing a lot of, the radius furniture. We're seeing a lot of radius coffee tables and dining tables, round cylindrical moments, which I really like, but I feel like the balance is going to be necessary in the near future. And I think there's going to be a reaction to that. I do think that in the rug industry, there's a movement with this sort of, and we don't have any in our collection. I know they're very popular, but it almost looks like when you put ink in a, kind of one of those spinning.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's like a very popular rug design at the moment that I find it makes me uncomfortable. Like, it's just like when I look at it, it makes me nervous. You know what I mean? It looks like something terrible happened. I'm like, what happened? Like, it looks like there should be yellow tape that says, please do not cross around it. So that's like something for me. That's a personal thing. I know that they're very popular. Right. I would say, I don't know. I just think the feature wall in like one paint color, that's something that's like, I think that's, kind of a thing that I think is going to maybe not be there forever. And, I also look at it as like, and the reason I say I try not to like, I'm very open to sort of what's going on around me. I don't have to like, it doesn't have to be my thing or I don't have to love it, but there's probably a great way to do anything. And I just think that there's a lot of things that I find are just jarring to me, like that, so that they're a little, they don't encourage you sort of relaxing or feeling, and to me, that's, some of those things are when you go into an interior, and I don't love one aesthetic, I don't love like whether it's Queen Anne or, mid-century modern. I just don't, I don't love going into a mid-century house in LA with mid-century furniture and a telephone from that time period. And like, and I'm just like, it looks like you're in like a set for a TV show, it's like Mad Men or something. I like when there's a mix of things, just like the way we dress or the way that you would cook a meal or the way that you would, it's just, things that feel like it's happening naturally and not too forced. Whenever anything is too controlled like that, to me, sometimes it feels not so appealing,
Sherry?
Yes.
Or
yes.
Janice?
First time I was the present sir with their step on Woodward, and that's one of the I heard you say today,
No, we're doing it. We are doing it. We're just trying to, so Laura Beck, Laura Beck Lafferty, who works with me, just had a baby today, a little boy named Walker. And so she's doing that. And so we put a few things, like there's some things that we're kind of like, okay, we're going to do this, but like,
so tomorrow,
exactly.
Like,
oh yeah, it should be done. I told her she can do it. Yeah, we extended the book until next week for her. No, but and then Randy, who I work really closely with, and Andrew on product. We are, we have our new accessory line that's coming out, and we're working on a new lighting line that we're developing. We actually just launched with Visual Comfort and Generation, and so we're kind of like I said, I don't want to kill everybody and myself trying to get all this stuff done. So we're working on the book, but we've said, look, we're gonna make it will happen. They want us to have it out probably. They want us to deliver the book to them probably by the end of the summer, so that it would be out probably within 6 months after that.
Awesome.
And so probably, that's
Christmas.
That's sort of what they would like.
Right.
So they really would like us to get it to them probably more by the end of spring, so that they could get it up for Christmas, but we'll see.
Sherry?
But thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
in general,
Window treatments? I love window treatments. And it's funny, I have we do very, very modern spaces, and we're doing a very modern house in Montana, and the client was like, I don't think this house should have window treatments. It just should have, shades that come out of like, a thing. And I said, a couple, I literally had to like walk him through, like photographs, images, materials, everything. And he still wasn't really into it. And then he moved into the house, and we really convinced him, and we did it. And he was so happy that he did it. It changed the whole feeling of the house. And it didn't lose any of its modernity. And it softened it, it finished it. It also made it more user friendly in terms of some of the big open doors that go in and out. That when you have the shades going up and down, you either have them open or closed. You can't really go outside and then close them again. You know what I mean? So you're like, so it's just, I'm a big fan of just the material, having that as part of the transition from the glass, the steel to the interior elements. I also love it in city apartments, beautiful old sort of pre-war apartments. I think a lot of times need them because of the windows, really need window treatments. They were designed really to have them, and they need them. And also sometimes you're looking at views that aren't so pretty. So it's nice to have pretty curtains, sort of distract you from the brick wall. And but I do like window treatments. But I do think that there is I think there's a lot of different ways to utilize them. And I love shades, and I love that mixture. I like a mix of materials. Even if it's clean and simple, I still think you need that layering. And I also think it's great to do things that are with traditional sort of classic, sort of chintz fabric, and do something that feels a little bit cleaner and a little bit more tailored than what you would typically see with that kind of fabric, or using it on pillows in a modern space, and kind of having that element. I do like that kind of unexpected moment. But I think window treatments are, I love even like, a room that has curtain walls, you know what I mean? Just to bring in softness and texture, even if, they're just there for that acoustics.
Awesome.
I have a question. When you go to Italy or you go to Spain, I think when Americans go to Europe, they're so taken up with the colors
Yes.
and the livelihood of a room, the warmth
Yes.
of a room. And I feel that when I look at all the way things are today, I think they're very modern, they're very bland.
Right.
They don't have like personality. They all start to look like
Right.
the same thing.
And
some of the new Italian ones that have gone into the modern, they're very plastic and very cold. And
Right.
very
Well,
out
I think
there. All this.
blend all those pieces together. Well, I do think that, a lot of what you're seeing in European design, which I love, is that there really is sort of an effortlessness about bringing elements together. I think that they will mix things that in the US, I think there's much more of a, well, does this go with this? Does this go with that? It feels more planned. And if you look at like English interiors from the 80s, true English interiors, and then you look at American English interiors, the people that were doing a great job of that, like Mario Guada, Sister Parish, those kinds of designers from the 70s and the 80s, was that they were kind of allowing things that wouldn't normally go together to go together, and just sort of having, I would say, it was an organized yet haphazard kind of approach to design, which I think is kind of natural. And I think that that's what you're seeing in Europe a lot. You're seeing things, just sort of a collection of things that people love put together. And someone who has great style and loves a lot of different things, even though they're bringing all of these different things into a space, they have such a distinct sensibility that those things somehow coordinate and work well together. And I think that's what you're seeing. I think here at home, our design process was always very driven by sort of coordinating and matching, and there was a thematic approach. And it was, if you look back at that same time, there were people who were doing English, French country or English country, or they were doing, French provincial, and everything would be in that kind of moment. And people were like, well, I can't have that because it doesn't fit with the, you know what I mean? It's like, we're doing everything in that sort of French blue or Tuscan yellow. So they become these little pockets. And so when you go around the US, sometimes you'll see a house that you're like, oh, it has to be redone because it was done all in Tuscan. You're not going to see kind of that happening in other places. So I think it's just our design aesthetic just needs to be a little bit more kind of open-minded and a little bit more free to have sort of things come together. So if you're mixing those modern pieces that are kind of textural and have beautiful, sort of textured fabrics and simple, clean, open-grained woods, mix that with color. I think that would be fabulous. But I do think that in American designers and what we're trained as in design school, what I was trained, is to really follow those rules and those kind of like almost like themes. And I actually like when you break all of that and you mix things that you like. I think what's really exciting about design today versus any other time in the world of design, and I think you'll see it in fashion, and I think you'll see it in food. People are mixing new and old, wacky with classic, high end. They'll wear expensive shoes with a ripped pair of jeans and like a tuxedo blazer with a white t-shirt from, and sneakers, right? And you're kind of like mixing all of the, or your sneakers are made by Gucci, or so you have this mix of like very high end and very everyday mixing together, So it's all about creating that mix. And I think today, what's really exciting as designers is that we have that palette to work from now, where there really is no right or wrong. There is no no one says to anybody, oh, you can't wear white pants after Labor Day, because it's not a thing anymore. So it's like, you can wear white pants. If you're in the mood to wear white pants, just make it look great, And so I think that's really kind of exciting with food. I think you see like truffle hot dogs, mixing like really expensive with like something you can get at a ballpark. So it's like, I think that's kind of cool, and I like the idea of having that freedom. So I think when you see things kind of falling into that kind of place where they feel overly controlled and sort of one-dimensional, like what you're saying, I think that's just another great example of this is maybe a good time to sort of show that in a way that hasn't been seen before, or that you haven't seen it before, that you think would make it feel better.
Well, when you go through Europe, they preserve everything. They just go overboard to the original work of the building. And here we just tear things down. Put
Well, what's really interesting also in Europe is that you'll see, like, you'll go to an Italian restaurant and it'll be like, the building will be, 900 years old, and there'll be like a piece of glass on the floor with this really modern lighting illuminating a space that was like once a staircase that went to like an aqueduct or something. But it's very modern in the way that they approach it. And the furniture you're sitting on is very modern. And you look up and the lighting is like very architectural and modern, but the room you're in is ancient. And I think that in the US, you would more typically see in that room an older looking table with older style chairs, a light fixture that looks like it was in the style of like a Venetian, sort of a light of some sort. And it doesn't allow the thing that's old to feel new and young and fresh. It kind of makes it almost feel like overwhelmingly kind of like heavy. So I do think that, I think sometimes people think that you have to knock down old things is that they don't see them as being modern and cool. But if you go into a French, salon in Paris, most of the artwork and most of the furniture, the upholstery is all very modern, and the room is Baroque. You know what I mean? And it's kind of interesting to have that mix of like really, really, really heavy architecture and then clean sort of modern upholstery and lighting. So I think that is why a lot of Europeans have a different appreciation for older things, is because they share them with modern and they come across in a different way. Like I go into a space like that and I think this feels so inspiring because it's both modern and timeless. It really becomes a timeless element. Whereas the way that I think sometimes we design here is that we design things that they have a shelf life. It's like, oh, this is in right now. And, you hear people saying like, oh, this is trending. And I'm like, okay, but what do you like? I mean, if that's trending, that's interesting. But do you like that? Because if you don't, I think right now as designers, as people living in our interiors, fashion, food, everything, it's like you can mix it. You can create your own unique and authentic combination of colors, textures, flavors, your point of view, aesthetic. You could really, there's almost nothing, you can't really make a mistake. The only mistake you can make is not trusting yourself and your ideas, I think. Whereas years ago, there were a lot of rules that people felt they had to follow. And thank God we don't have to do that anymore.
So again, thank you. we're gonna wrap it up here. Tom's gonna be across the
Great.
hall. If you have any personal questions to
Yeah.
ask, and then we'll be back over here at 5 o'clock. And we have food.
Disco party.
We have food. We have food coming. We have signature drinks. We have everything